Alrighty. What's up, everybody? It is I, your tribal god of extreme, Peter Joseph here, for a late Wednesday afternoon video. Right here on Metal God 669. And as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe right now. Alright. It is May the 21st, 2025. Thank you for watching here on the channel. We got, for all my wrestling fans and subscribers, we got AEW Dynamite! Coming up in about an hour or so. Should be a great show tonight. The go-home show before this Sunday's Double or Nothing pay-per-view. So, good stuff, but we'll talk about wrestling later. Right now, it's a little bit sad. It's sad time, as we all know here on the Metal God channel. For those of you who are new to my channel, well, welcome to the party, pal. Enjoy the ride. Don't forget to subscribe. That too. But for those of you who are here for the first time, most of this channel is a tribute channel to the faithful departed in the world of television, movies, music, sports, wrestling included. But I do have some some music content that I've put out, some concert footage, some unboxing, some merch, like kind of like this one and all that other other stuff. I will be getting back into the music videos, music related videos like music news and stuff like that. Pretty much coming up as after Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to start getting back into a little bit of a rhythm and getting some music-related videos out, but I'm not totally going away from the tribute videos, and that's pretty much it. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, this channel is 95% death videos for clout. First of all, don't do it for clout. It's a tribute channel. So, you don't like it? Get out of here. Simple as that. You can't respect the faithful departed, then go fuck yourself. I don't disrespect the dead, so if you think I do that, then you need your head examined. And but that's that. But this is not the time to get dramatic and all that other shit and talk about how other people think they're better. They're better and everything, shit like that. Not that time. That's on another channel. But anyway, it is a sad day in the world of television. Yesterday, we lost one of the great... I think this guy was one of the greatest characters in the 80s. You know him, you love him. He would come in to the little establishment called Cheers. He would just come in and say, good afternoon, everybody. Norm! So, yes, Norm Peterson, otherwise known as George Wendt, passed away yesterday at the age of 76. No actual cause of death as of right now. There was stories saying that his wife, I believe his wife found him dead in his sleep. So, it could be anything, it could be natural causes, but anything like that, but just another kind of hit to my childhood, because I did, when I was a little bitty hoaxer dude, watch Cheers on, it was on Channel 4, during the primetime era, and then, on Channel 11, Pix 11, they would always show the reruns, and, for 11 seasons, Cheers was pretty much, I think, Cheers was like the #1 show on NBC for a while. But, anyway, moving on. But, yeah, so yesterday he died peacefully in his home, in his sleep. Like I said, after his family found him unresponsive. And that's that. So George Wendt, Norm Peterson, passes away at the age of 76. A rep for George Wendt said in a statement, and I quote, George was a doting family man, a well-loved friend and confidant to all those lucky enough to have known him. And I'm reading this from the Hollywood Reporter, by the way. Just want to point that out. Not from Wikipedia. So anyway, he will be missed forever. The family has requested privacy during this tough time, obviously. So we get that. George Wendt had an incredible career as an actor, beloved for his starring role as Norm Peterson in all 11 seasons of the NBC sitcom Cheers. During his time playing Norm, he earned Emmy nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series for 6 straight years. That's amazing. With the character notably also making cameos on St. Elsewhere, Wings, The Simpsons, Family Guy, Frasier, and The Tortellis. All those are 80s shows. Well, Frasier wasn't so much 80s, so it was a little bit in the 90s, so I didn't get that. Simpsons, of course, was like the late 80s, early 90s. Family Guy, late 90s, stuff like that. Wings was a great 80s show, by the way. We move on with that. He was also on the silver screen in 1984, Dreamscape, 1985, House, Fletch, that's with Chevy Chase, 1985, Gung Ho, 1986, Plainclothes in 1987, Never Say Die in 1988, Guilty by Suspicion, 1991, Forever Young, 1992, and, yes, he was in Spice World, the Spice Girls movie, in 1997. Didn't play a great part in that movie, but, you know, we get that. So, we got most of his friends and co-workers from Cheers. Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone. He says, I am devastated to hear that George is no longer with us. I am sending all my love to Bernadette. That's his wife. Sorry about that. And the children, it is going to take me a long time to get used to this. I love you, Georgie. So that. John Ratzenberger, who was the postman who always sat next to Norm on Cheers. It's Cliff Clavin. He said, I'm heartbroken to hear about the passing of my friend George Wendt. For 11 years on Cheers, we shared the stage. Lots of laughs, a front row seat to one of television's most beloved friendships. George brought Norm to life with a subtle brilliance, the kind that made it look easy, and that was his gift. He was a true craftsman, humble, hilarious, and full of heart. What you saw on screen was exactly who he was off screen, with impeccable comedic timing and a deep loyalty to those he loved. I'll miss our conversations and the quiet moments of friendship that meant the most. My thoughts are with his wife Bernadette, their children. He had 2 kids, and everyone who loved him. And Kelsey Grammer, who played Dr. Fraser Crane. Oh, Fraser Crane. And, he said, I believe mourning is a private matter, but I like George a lot. He was beloved by millions. He was, like I said, he was one of the greatest characters in the history of television. You know, in my opinion, if he wasn't on that show, I don't think Cheers would have been great. But anyway, move on. Rhea Perlman, who played Carla, the waitress and sometimes bartender on the show, she said, George Wendt was the sweetest, kindest man I ever met. It was impossible not to like him, as Carla was often standing next to him, as Norm always took the same seat at the end of the bar, which made it easy to grab him and beat the crap out of him at least once a week. Sad. I loved doing it, and he loved pretending it didn't hurt. What a guy. I'll miss him more than words can say. You know, we all know Rhea Perlman is married to Danny DeVito. We all know who he is, and we got that. Melissa Joan Hart, surprisingly, who acted along in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I didn't even know he was on that show, but okay, we'll go with that. She went on Instagram. Heaven just got a little funnier with George Wendt. It was a thrill to work beside him on Sabrina the Teenage Witch for a handful of episodes. I was a big Cheers fan and knew I was among one of the best when he was on set. He was warm, professional, and kind, and our cast and crew were gifted with his presence every time. Rest in peace. Actor Eric Allen Kramer, who had he had a couple of guest appearances on Cheers. He said it was hard to hear of his passing. First met George on the set of Cheers, one of the warmest, funniest guys I ever come across. And We shared a history of work with the Calgary Stampeders in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and exchanged many stories over the week. Cheers indeed. Many thanks for the laughs and the education. And that's that. I forgot who he played. He just showed up like on a couple episodes, I believe. But anyway, moving on. A couple more people, and we move on. Bill Simmons on Twitter wrote, "R.I.P. George Wendt. Enjoyed him in literally everything, but what he created with Norm Peterson stands the test of time. Just a crucial piece of one of the best 30-minute shows ever. The last cheer scene ever was with Norm and Sam in the bar, and that scene always. I was watching that last scene last night actually. It's just Sam and Norm in the bar, and they're talking, and Norman's about to leave the bar, and just leave Sam in the bar. And he said something, Sam says something to Norm, and then, next thing you know, he has like one more beer at the front of the bar, not at the, where he usually sits, and then he says, nobody's ever gonna sit on that side of the bar, even God. I was like, wow. That's just a great scene. Just a great scene. Jeremy Gunderson, executive director of the National Comedy Center, he said from his early days with Second City to his iconic role as Norm on Cheers, George Wendt's work showcased how comedy can create indelible characters that felt like family, like people like Steve Urkel, people in all the major 80s characters like Mork from Mork and Mindy, the dude from Greatest American Hero, Michael Knight from Knight Rider, people like that, Laverne and Shirley, even Squiggy and Iggy from Laverne and Shirley. So many people. The Fonz from Happy Days, Richie Cunningham, Joni and Chachi, Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham. I mean, so many great, legendary people that had iconic roles. Even in the 90s when you got Jerry Seinfeld, you had Kramer, people from Friends and shit like that. So, TV always has iconic characters that will stand the test of time. Even today, if you see some of the shows that have been going on today, there's a lot of great people. But, Big Bang Theory with Sheldon, and then, later on, Georgie has his own show with Mandy, and, all the good stuff. So that's that. Ed O'Keefe said something. I think I don't know if I'm going to get copyrighted for this, but I think there's a scene. He has something on X where I think Norm comes in.
Afternoon, everybody.
Norm!
How you doing, Norm? What do you know? Not enough.
Every time he came into the bar, he was like, "Afternoon, everybody." Norm! Just a great guy, man. He is so good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's that. So rest in peace to Norm Peterson, having a beer up there in heaven with all the greats up there and that big television thingamajig in the sky. He's sitting at the bar at his normal stool, having a bar, watching the Boston Red Sox, probably, playing the Mets right now. Yeah, I'm wearing a Mets shirt, Don't get me started with that. But, so, rest in peace to Norm Peterson, George Wendt, an iconic 80s legend. And, like I said, another hit to my childhood. I mean, growing up with Laverne and Shirley, growing up with Happy Days, The Greatest American Hero, Mork and Mindy, Charles in Charge. I mean, so many 80s shows, because the 80s are the greatest decade ever. You think it's not? Fuck you. I know some of you were never even born in the 80s, because, I'm an old fart, and I'm a sexy old fart, too. But, the 80s were just an amazing time. I don't think we'll ever get another decade like the 80s with so many great TV shows, so many iconic actors and actresses playing great parts. We'll never get that again. Great music as well, great movies. The 80s will never, ever be forgotten. You know, I go back to the 80s. I have Paramount Plus. I watch all the 80s shows that I grew up on. Mork and Mindy, shit like that. Just amazing shit. I loved it. And I love 80s music. As much as I love heavy metal, you know, I go back to the 80s metal. And, you know, and then I turn on the 80s freestyle from back in the day. You know, good stuff like that. You know, Tears for Fears and, you know, bands like that. Obscure bands like that, you know. So I'll always throw on some 80s music, you know, just to feel nostalgic. You know, throwing some Poison, throwing some Rat, Judas Priest, Metallica, Megadeth, shit like that. You know, but you can't get enough of the 80s. You can't. So if you lived in the 80s, whether you were a little bambino like me, or you're a little bit older like, you know who, but the 80s, I think everybody will agree with me that the 80s were like the decade. You thought the 90s weren't that great, but not that great. The early 90s, yeah, I'll give you that, with the start of grunge, and then pretty much right up to 94, the mid-90s kind of like, wasn't great, and then right near the end of pretty much the 20th century, we were like, you know, and then the whole I'm gonna say Y2K scare, which you're like, oh, everything's gonna die. We can't use our computers anymore. That was a waste, because that never happened. We're now in the 21st century. We're in 2025, the first almost 6 months of this great year, and not been that great for some people, but you know, the world is very different 40 some odd years ago. You know, I'm almost 50, so I've been through the tail end of disco, going into the great decade of the 80s, into the 90s, into the 2000s, 2010s, and now we're at the midpoint of another decade. We're at the halfway point of this decade, actually, you know. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in the next, from now until 2030 when we start another decade. Yeah, I'll be in my mid-50s by then, but, well, close to my mid-50s, but hopefully, you know, as we get into the future, Conan, everything will be, you know, new things will be happening with TV, you know, everything's going to streams right now, satellite TV will probably be extinct, because everything's going to be turning to, like, Max Plus and, you know, Apple TV, everything's going to be digitized, no more cable, no more satellite TV, you know, technology's going to be all different, you know, they're still going to have, like, boring as fuck dating shows, you know, everybody's having monotonous sex with each other, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Who knows if Jersey Shore's going to be on by then, but, you know, well, it's still going, but, you know, oh yeah, Jersey Shore, cabs are here, you know. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years with TV, but we're not going to get another man like George Wendt, ever. I don't think we're going to get an iconic character like him, ever. So as I always do in my tribute videos to the faithful departed, to George Wendt, rest in peace, sir. You were my childhood. I wish I had a beer, but I don't have beer, sorry. So I got the next best thing, Pepsi and Henny and Pepsi, so to George, Norm, this one's for you. Cheers. Well, cheers, no pun intended. Alright, guys, thanks for watching. Leave me your memories of George Wendt, if you remember him from Cheers, if you even watched Cheers, whether it be on Paramount Plus, or if you're old like me, you watch it on NBC or reruns on Channel 11. But give me your thoughts and opinions down below, and we'll have a nice little chitty chat. And that's that. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and as I always say on my Rest in Peace videos, take each day as it comes, because you never know when it will be our last. So, one day at a time, like that great hit 80s show, One Day at a Time, with Valerie Bertinelli and crew. Just take it one day at a time, live life to 90%, the other 10%, don't know. So we got that. But live your life to the fullest, and that's pretty much it. Alright guys, I'm out of here. So Norm, rest in peace, sir. Until next time, have a beer for Norm. Peace.